Hi, folks. Ashley here. We're going to try to do our section meeting this week online, as is much of the campus this week. So I'm going to try to get through this quickly. I don't think it will take us 50 minutes. The primary sort of reason for our meeting today is to go over what's going to happen between now and the end of the quarter, and then some just announcements and a little bit of review for the final. Okay, so to start, excuse me, my kids have all been sick all weekend, and one of them just went to the doctor and tested positive for the flu. So we are all kind of hunkered down here. So that's why I'm doing this video from my son's rooms. Okay, so today's section is March 10th. So what does the course look like for the rest of the quarter? So as of the time of this recording, I haven't yet seen Colin's lecture for today. So whatever he said, if it contradicts with what I'm saying now, his stuff will supersede it. But as far as I am aware, our plan is to move the entire contents of the course onto an online platform, which means that today, before our discussion time, Colin sent out a link, and that had his lecture. So today, this is our last section meeting, and so we're doing this also by video. So the hope is to have this posted before 3 o'clock so that everyone can access it. So everything from here on out will be online or over the phone. If you'd like to make an office hour appointment, I'll address that a little bit later on, but we're going to do those over the phone. The final examination, so I'm sure many of you have questions about what the final is going to look like. Because we were planning to do it in person, but now we have to switch this to an online format, we're not exactly sure how it's going to work out. At this point, we're thinking we're going to take the exam that was already written and turn it into an exam done by Google form. And so the thought is that we'd send the link out during our final examination time that was already scheduled. And you all would have 2 hours to complete your examination via the Google form, and then it would just get submitted to us so that we could grade it pretty easily. More to come on the final exam I'm looking at my notes here off to the side. More to come on the final exam toward the end of this. But what I will say is, because the exam is being proctored online, we are aware that folks will have access to like the lecture slides, the PDFs of the readings, whatever notes you have, and online. And so we're aware of that. My advice to folks would be, yes, utilize those resources, but as much as possible, do that prep in advance so that you're not crashing the website, when you're taking your final exam. So if all 60 of you are downloading, week 8 slideshow, Canvas is going to have some tech problems. So don't rely on that. And I just want to let everyone know that in advance. Don't rely on looking up the answers to each question during your examination time. 1, I don't think you'll have enough time. But 2, I think I have concerns that Canvas is going to crash. So don't rely on your technology in that way in terms of retrieving files and lecture slides and so forth. As much as you can, do that prep in advance. And if you hang on till the end of this video, I'm going to give you some good direction in terms of what you should be prepping for the final examination. I also want to say that, both Colin and I, we've talked a number of times in the last few days, and we've both really, really appreciated the flexibility that you all have demonstrated this quarter. It's been kind of a wild quarter between the strike action and school closures and moving things online, and so we really appreciate your flexibility. Okay, all that to say, we talked about the final exam. More information to come on that. We still have some time. Our final exam, I think, is scheduled for next Wednesday. So we've got more than a week for now. Between now and, Saturday, Sunday, I think it's probably best for folks to just focus on their papers and then to shift gears to that final exam prep. And feel free to refer back to this video if you have any questions. I think it'll just be up and available for folks. Okay, when it comes to the final paper, some general information, feedback. Number 1, go back and read the instructions for the paper. Read them closely. Make sure that your paper meets the minimum requirements that are outlined there. If you do, you're going to have a real leg up. In general, when it comes to your writing and your claims, be more specific. Shy away from overgeneralizations and so forth. That was a common piece of feedback that I gave folks with the first paper. And so with the second paper, please keep that in mind as well. Third piece of advice, edit. Edit your essays. Make sure that there's language agreement. Make sure there's nothing weird happening with the grammar. Please edit. In terms of sources, a few things to say about that. One is look for some of your primary sources on the syllabus. Those might be more general sources. As you move from the syllabus sources to the sources that are listed in the additional reading section of the syllabus, that might allow you to get a little bit more specific with your usage of sources. And then, of course, once you get to the point where you're integrating your own sources, you've got a lot of freedom and a lot of flexibility. Some sources or places to go that I've been directing people to who are looking for outside sources. Number one is the library. There is an online VPN access. If you would like help setting that up, please contact the library's help desk. They're super supportive. And then the one that I recommend, because I think it's actually an easier interface, is Google Scholar. So check those sources out if you are trying to find those outside sources that are not listed on the syllabus at all and you're struggling. Those are some good places to look. Final piece of advice on the final paper, have a peer edit your work or visit the writing center. I know that that's a little bit logistically challenging with so many of the campus closures, but send a Google Doc to a friend or a classmate and have them give it a once over, support each other in that way. I think that's really effective. Okay, office hours tomorrow from 10 to 12. I've met with many of you by phone this week already, but if you'd like to do another meeting, or if you haven't yet had the chance to meet with me by phone tomorrow from 10 to 12, and then sometime Friday morning, depending on demand. And then, of course, if those hours don't work for you, send me an email and we can find a time to do an office hour over the phone at another time. Again, just email me if you'd like to schedule. When it comes to the strike, I don't really have any updates for you right now. At this point, we anticipate that all of your grades will be submitted one way or the other. If you have any questions, contact us. But I wouldn't feel too concerned that there's going to be a significant impact right now on your getting your grades. Again, not sure how it will play out, but that's my best guess now. Okay, so when it comes to exam prep, this would be the time to start taking notes for prep. I'm going to walk you through the areas that you need to have proficiency in. And then it's going to be up to you to go consult the materials that we've given you, the readings, the lecture slides, our discussions, the lectures and so forth into your prep for the exam. But I'm going to walk you through what you need to be prepared for. Okay, to start with, I want you to be familiar with the history of invention, both of invention and popularization for several different domains that we've covered, including photography and film. When it comes to photography, also please be familiar with the relationship between photography and criminology and art. That's going to be important for the exam. The history of radio in general, but also the radioactive 1912 are going to be important. Just having a good general sense of how that all unfolded will serve you well on this exam. Please be familiar with the history around Alexander Graham Bell, his inventions, and the lineage of those inventions. Of course, we did a fair amount of work on trains the second half of this quarter, so be familiar with the history around the train. There's a piece that we read this quarter called Recoding Gender. I think that familiarity with that piece would serve you well on this exam. Among other things, you're going to want to understand the different layers of media infrastructure and the history of the computing, tabulating, and recording company. Those are important. The history of the phonograph ends up coming in to this exam, so it would be wise to be familiar with that, as well as some of the work that we've read the second half of the quarter on both listening and technologies. You're going to be asked to give various bits of information on different media and devices that were covered in the second half of this term. So it would serve you well to be familiar with some of those medias, the big ones that we've talked about, and know the key bits of information about them so that you can explain what they are and why they're important and when they became important, these sorts of things. There are, I believe, 3 passage identifications that are going to come up. Without giving too much information about what those might be, please be familiar with some of the main themes in the readings that we've done. Those ones are really going to be on you to be familiar with. But make sure if you've done a review of the slides and you've done at least an outline of the readings, you should be on point for those. And I can't give much more detail about those without giving them away completely. So, last thing to be prepared for the final exam is that you are going to have essay questions, and those were already outlined for you in the study guide that Colin posted to Canvas. I think it was last week. So please look at those essay questions. Know that you will be asked to answer some of those essay questions. Again, it's an online format, so it'll feel a little bit different, but maybe it will be more fluid. I don't know. For folks who have accommodations, please be in touch with Colin and I to coordinate those. That's absolutely no problem. We're just going to have to figure out a way that works for you all that uses this online interface that we can kind of finagle. So again, folks, thanks so much for this quarter. I had a really great time with you all. And my hope is that I will get to learn with you all again, many of you next quarter in media theory. So if you are signed up for that class, I should be your TA. So that'll be a fun opportunity to continue some of the conversations that we've had the opportunity to start in this class. So thanks for a great quarter, and thanks for hanging in there with all of the changes and all the stuff that's been up in the air. We really appreciate it from our end, and just know that we're going to be plugging away, grading papers and grading final examinations, and we're sending you all good luck. Okay, take care. Thanks.